Welcome, deep divers. Okay, so you know that feeling, right? That knot in your stomach when a school assignment, lands on the kitchen table. It's often not just the kids feeling it. Sometimes it's us parents too. You see the crumpled papers, hear the frustrated sighs, maybe even deal with tears. It's a real stress point for families. And today we're going to zoom in on one specific aspect of this, one that can feel particularly overwhelming. This deep dive is all about navigating school assignments for children with dyslexia. We really want to cut through some of the confusion and figure out how we can genuinely make this whole process easier for everyone.
Absolutely. And we're pulling from some really valuable conversations for this. Our source material is actually from a discussion on parenting together. It gave us both, the real lived experience of a mother dealing with this and also the professional insights from a teacher. They had such great perspectives. Yep. And we've kind of distilled the key takeaways from that for you.
Exactly. So our mission today is pretty straightforward. Yeah, we want to arm you with some really practical, usable strategies, things you can actually do, and also give you a clearer understanding of, what's actually going on. The aim is to help shift school assignments from being the source of overwhelm to maybe something more empowering, maybe even, a bit more positive for children with dyslexia. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, let's unpack this then. We often hear that assignments are a hurdle for children with dyslexia, but what exactly makes them more challenging? I mean, on the surface, it's just homework, right?
Right, but it really is a different landscape for them. The core challenge is that dyslexia specifically impacts the skills needed for reading and writing. And what's crucial to understand, I think, is that this isn't about vision, seeing the letters clearly. It's about how their brain processes language. It makes it harder to quickly recognize words, to connect those letters on the page to the sounds they make, that step, which most of us do automatically. For someone with dyslexia, it's a very conscious, effortful task. So think about it like this. Even before a child can start tackling, say, a math problem or answering a history question, just reading the instructions on the worksheet can feel like a really complex puzzle. They have to sort of unlock it first. So while maybe other kids are already halfway through the work, a child with dyslexia might still be really working hard just to read and understand that first line of instructions.
Wow, that really paints a picture of the cognitive load involved, just getting started. So it sounds like by the time they actually get to the writing part, they're already pretty drained mentally and maybe even physically. That's a huge amount of effort just to figure out what the question is before even thinking about the answer. That must be tough.
Exactly. It's exhausting. And what's fascinating here, and this is such a critical point, is that dyslexia is absolutely not about intelligence. These kids are just as smart as their classmates. Often, they have incredible strengths in other areas: creativity, problem solving, thinking outside the box. The root issue is simply how their brain is wired to process written language. Reading just requires significantly more effort for them. Their brain is essentially working overtime on tasks that, for neurotypical folks, are pretty routine. It's like, imagine doing intense exercise for something others do without even thinking. And because of that extra effort, assignments naturally take longer. And that, understandably, leads to a lot of frustration, sometimes exhaustion. And then, when kids consistently feel like they're behind or they're struggling way more than their friends, they can start to lose confidence, sometimes to the point where they don't even want to start the work. Avoidance kicks in. That psychological impact is really significant. It can become this sort of negative cycle.
That distinction feels so incredibly important for parents, for caregivers, for teachers too, to really grasp. It's a processing difference. It's not about capability or lack of effort. And understanding that really underlines why tailored support is so vital. And like you said, why breaking things down into smaller parts can be so powerful. It helps them get over that initial hump and maybe start building some confidence back up. It's not about lowering expectations, it's about finding a different path.
Precisely. A different path to the same goal.
So, okay, with that understanding kind of setting the stage,
yeah,
what does this actually mean for you listening as a parent or caregiver trying to help? We're not just here to explain the challenge. We want to give you some real tools. We've pulled out 3 simple practical tips from that parenting together discussion that you can hopefully start using right away.
Yeah, let's dive into those. Okay, tip number 1, break assignments into chunks. Seems simple, but it's powerful. So instead of saying something huge and maybe overwhelming like, okay, finish this whole essay tonight, you reframe it, break it down into much smaller, more manageable steps. You could say, right, let's just focus on brainstorming one idea for the introduction first. Or maybe, how about we just write the first sentence for each paragraph? Little pieces.
That makes so much sense for tackling that feeling of overwhelm we talked about. But I can almost hear some parents thinking, doesn't breaking it down make it feel, I don't know, even longer, like you're adding more steps?
That's a really fair question. It might seem like it adds steps, but what it actually does is reduce the friction to get started. When a child looks at a massive task, sometimes their brain just shuts down. You get procrastination, frustration, wasted time, lots of emotional energy spent not doing the work. Breaking it down makes that first step feel achievable. It's the difference between saying climb that mountain versus just take this one step onto the path. The mental barrier just shrinks dramatically. We actually heard from the mother in that discussion. She described how changing her language made such a difference. And instead of finish the essay, she started saying things like, just write down one idea. And her child, who would usually just freeze, could actually start. It genuinely makes it feel less scary, more doable. And you can encourage taking like a short break between those chunks too, a breather.
Okay, I'm sold on the chunking. That shift in language sounds key. And building on that idea of making things more accessible, our second tip involves using something many of us have readily available, audio support.
Exactly. Tip number 2, use audio support. We know reading the instructions themselves can be a big hurdle. So one option is simple. As a parent, you just read the instructions aloud to your child, clear and simple. Or, and this is becoming easier and more effective all the time, kids can use text-to-speech tools. On a tablet, on a computer. There are tons of apps and built-in features now that will read digital text out loud.
And the benefit there seems huge, right? It lets the child put all their mental energy into understanding the content, thinking about the actual subject matter, figuring out their answers, instead of getting bogged down just trying to decode the words on the page. It's like bypassing the bottleneck. That really connects with that example from the Parenting Together source, where the mom said her daughter uses an app to listen to her textbooks. She said it made a huge difference.
I can totally see how that would shift where their focus and energy goes. It absolutely does. It frees up that cognitive bandwidth, as you said, for the actual learning, not just the mechanics of reading. Which leads us nicely into our third tip, which is maybe less about technology and more about mindset and environment. It's about giving extra time and celebrating progress. This really comes down to patience. Try not to rush your child. Reassure them and yourself that if an assignment takes longer, that is genuinely okay. The goal isn't speed, it's understanding and completion. Remember, their brain is working harder on the reading and writing mechanics, so there's less mental energy left over for the actual task content at any given moment. So that extra time isn't just about being slow, it's necessary for them to process effectively.
Yeah, that reframing is important. And tied right into that patience is the incredible power of acknowledging their effort, really celebrating the small wins. It doesn't have to be a huge finished project. It could be, hey, you finished 2 math problems, fantastic job. Or, wow, look, you got that first paragraph written down, that's excellent progress. That kind of genuine encouragement is like fuel. It keeps their motivation up, helps push back against that feeling of defeat we mentioned. It helps a child feel proud of what they did accomplish. Instead of just focusing on what's left or how hard it felt, you really become their cheerleader.
You absolutely do. Your role is crucial there.
Okay, so these are 3 really concrete strategies: chunking tasks, using audio, and allowing time, plus celebrating wins. But sometimes, even with the best strategies, things can still feel incredibly tough. What should parents do if, homework always seems to end in tears or major frustration no matter what they try at home? When is it time to maybe look for more help?
That's a really important question, and knowing when to escalate is key. If you find that despite your best efforts with these strategies, homework is consistently a source of significant distress, we're talking meltdowns, extreme avoidance, tears every single night, then yes, it's definitely time to reach out. The first and often best step is always to talk to their teacher. They see your child in the learning environment every day. They can offer really valuable insights, and you can specifically ask about accommodations. Could assignments perhaps be shortened? Or critically, could oral answers sometimes be accepted instead of written ones? That can massively reduce the pressure on the writing mechanics. The teacher might already have strategies in place or be able to suggest school resources. And then if those conversations and adjustments within the classroom aren't quite enough, or if the struggles are really persistent, that's when you might consider seeking support from a specialist. This could be someone like a reading tutor who specializes in dyslexia, or perhaps a school psychologist who can do more in-depth assessments and recommend targeted interventions. This raises an important question for parents, doesn't it? About how we could be proactive advocates for our child's specific learning needs within the whole school system. It's really about building a collaborative team, parent, teacher, maybe specialists, all working together to support the child, advocating for the resources that fit how their unique brain learns best. And please, always remember this. I think it's so important. Asking for help is not giving up. Not at all. It is actually one of the most proactive, informed, and loving things you can possibly do for your child. It's about giving them the specific tools they need to unlock their potential and truly succeed on their own terms.
That is such a powerful and, frankly, necessary reassurance for parents. It empowers them not just to spot when more support is needed, but to feel confident going after it, to advocate for those tools, those resources. Because ultimately, it's all about setting our child up for success, and yes, sometimes that means bringing in backup from outside the home. Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, let's just quickly circle back to those 3 core tips we discussed for making school assignments more manageable for kids with dyslexia. First, break those big tasks into smaller, less intimidating chunks.
Second, definitely leverage audio support, read instructions aloud, or use text-to-speech tools to ease that decoding burden.
And third, allow for extra time without pressure, and make sure to celebrate every single step of progress, however small it might seem. Be that cheerleader.
Exactly. And beyond just those tips, remember the incredible background impact of your presence, your patience, your understanding, your genuine encouragement as a parent or caregiver. It makes a monumental difference. It's not just about getting the homework done, is it? It's about nurturing your child's self-esteem, helping them hold on to their curiosity, and hopefully their love for learning, even when it feels really hard. You're building something much bigger than just completed assignments.
So well said. You really are their rock, their support system, and every single step forward, truly, no matter how tiny it feels in the moment, is a victory worth acknowledging and celebrating. So as you go about your week, maybe mull this over. These principles we talked about today, breaking down complexity, using different ways to process information, celebrating the small wins, could these ideas apply more broadly? Not just for dyslexia, maybe not even just for learning challenges, but perhaps in managing tricky projects in our own lives, at work or at home. How could we all use these insights to make things feel a bit more manageable, maybe a bit more rewarding? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really hope you feel a little more equipped, perhaps a little more understood, and ready to make a positive difference. Until next time.